Hey there, friends. I wanted to make this quick video because I want to discuss something that rarely gets talked about. It's kind of starting to pop up here and there because if you talk to any pro who works in recording in studios, they're going to tell you what their most precious and useful piece of gear is, and that's an EQ. This is my Boss EQ 200, which I just picked up. Some dummy sold it really cheap. If you're the dummy, I apologize, but it was dumb because this one in particular is programmable and it's got recallable presets. And you can set the output, a different EQ to one output and another EQ to the other. So you can have left and right different EQs. So say you're using 2 amps, this whole big, we got to have 2 amps thing, which by the way is the dumbest thing ever because no one ever went into a recording session and said, I got to have wet, dry, wet and full stereo. Yeah, that doesn't happen because you have to fill up the spectrum of your instruments on a recording. Where are you going to pan them? Is everything going to be stereo then? But I digress. You can make each channel different and it's programmable and it's pretty damn cool. And someone sold it really cheap. So I just put together this new board where the signal actually comes in through the Geminis, which is a stripped down version of their big doubler amp cab thing. So our KMA machines does some cool work. Then it goes to the EQ. Immediately, I want it to sound one of 4 ways, and that's my 4 presets. And then the thing I really like, this is, if you haven't seen it before, I'll get you a good shot there. If you haven't seen this, this is the Fjord Fuzz Midnight Sol, which is the Midnight Sun. It's a vibrato chorus with a filter, cancel switch, and it can be either a zonk machine or a Fuzz Face. It doesn't sound like any Fuzz Face I've ever played, but it really, really cleans up great. So you could have this on, and that could be your overdrive if you turn your volume down. But the fuzz, I'm not really a Fuzz Face guy, but with my lap steel, this sounds fantastic because it doesn't sound like every other Fuzz Face I've tried. I didn't really care for there's a secret setting inside. There's some dip switches, and you can combine Fuzz Face with zonk by itself or Fuzz Face, and I went with the Fuzz Face. I tried them all. That's my preference, but very, very useful, and you can turn things on and off. I can just have vibe, and I can just have vibe with the Fuchs valve job, which is sort of dumbly, and it's tube. It's a valve, right? And it sounds really, really great. Also cleans up amazingly. So if I had my volume down on this for clean, I could switch to this for a different sound, and it would also be a little cleaner. Then we go to the compadre for compression and boost, but also volume pedal. It's got a volume pedal jack, so that's acting as my volume pedal. Kind of an amazing piece of kit, that is. Then, like I've said before, my Syntax Era V1 has to be on every board. I've got a bunch of presets on the Enzo X, and this little sucker. So there's that Akai head rush. The V1, I think the V2 could do it, but the V1 had this one setting that if you turned it to the shortest time and turned the feedback up, you would get this ringy, chimey, like sort of on the edge of oscillation thing. And I improved on that in the tone print and even added some modulation and some textured dirt to it. And that's what this mini Flashback does. That's all it does, but it's so awesome. I had to have it, and I had enough room for it. And you can't see it down here, but this is the Lightning Boy 2020S passive transformer. And then that goes to, let's get the rag out and clean it off because it was on the floor, so, it's a little dirty, to the HX Effects. Because what I learned from my HX Stomp with my acoustic, which I'm putting together the smaller rig to demonstrate the flyer rig, in case I want to take less. I actually fit it all on a Nano, but I'm also going to try on the Nano Plus, which is a little larger, and see, and it still sounds great. But what I found with that rig is that there's a certain spring setting that I discovered that sounds amazing. And sometimes you might want a little more heft and push with that spring. And then I can add another reverb. And then I can have, a Moog, a filter, a reverse delay, and a trem pan, and a whole bunch of, you can do 8 effects, but you can only turn off and on 6. And that's, this part over here that powered by itself. So that's just merely the end of chain texture, and it works great. And the idea behind all of this is versatility. It's having as much versatility as possible. I will have 2 expression pedals in here and 3 here, because 1 for the Midnight Soul, 1 for the Syntax Era, and 1 for the volume here, and then 2 here to control a various array of effects. And that's the deal. And that gives me a ton of flexibility. I don't really have to mess with much. I can swap this out if I want, but I really like Vibe almost all the time, or at least the option to have it. So that would be tough to replace, but I could easily swap that out. And you've got a little flexibility there with dirt spots. And I can even add the Electro-Harmonix attack decay at the front end of the chain, because I have 1 more power jack here, so I could go there. I could also put my wah, which is battery powered, and I also have I may as well get this out. I have 1 spot on the power at the end here, so after the HX Effects, I can power this Dabo at the very end. So yeah, I have a ton of flexibility here, and it's really, really sweet. So that's what I've been working on. And then now I will get back to demonstrating the shorter, smaller fly rig for doing solo gigs, because it works. I don't want it all so close like on the Nano. The Nano Plus works, but I'm going to try to put it on the Nano works, but I'm going to try to put it on the Nano Plus because it just gives me a little more room to step on stuff, and I can add the mandala. So if you have any questions, let me know. But versatility, that's the key. And if you want to have something that elevates your rig without spending a lot of money and chasing after every overdrive on the market, get yourself an EQ. It doesn't have to be this one, but get yourself a good EQ that sounds good and doesn't add noise, and you'll go a long way. All right? Thanks for watching.